Hello there everyone, my name is Crazy Caleb and welcome to Repo Selector. Now, I have waited a long time to make a tutorial for this module, and mainly there was a huge update that recently just got made for this module that has made this module significantly better in my opinion. So, let's hop into what exactly we need to do with this module. And for a long time, all it was simply was counting modules, basically. And that was a bit of an issue just as a whole, and there was a lot of bugs that came along with it, and a lot of weird definitions. But now what we have here is we have um, very simple questions actually, and much more focused on the actual repository itself. So on the module, you see a display with the question on it, two buttons that point left and right, in this case these guys down here, a submit button, the enter over here, and a blinking LED, whether it be green or red. Now, what this LED means is that if we go down here, if you'll never get a question based on the repo if the LED is red. That's the only case where that applies. It's basically like a way to confirm that, like, I think you're connected to the internet, basically. And that specifically is going to be referring to you're only going to be getting questions that you can that it can recognize on your game. For example, profiles, whether you have it enabled or disabled, and I guess what's the exit letter of the YF module sorted on this specific bomb. That's the reason why I have some other modules in case that question does appear, because we're going to have to sort the modules that are on the bomb itself sometimes. So, what we have to do here is we need to answer two questions in order to solve the module. A strike will be issued on an incorrect answer. Questions can either be one of the following. Is this specific module, in this case we have this question right here, is mathematics ultimately disabled by profiles? Now, I believe, as far as I understand, for ultimately disabled, I think that refers to every single profile that you have enabled. It needs to be disabled. So if there's one that is, for example, if you were doing like a profile bomb, for example, with a few people, and you happen to say, oh, I'm playing with Def, and I'm playing with Bananas too. If, for example, one of these people, for some reason, happen to have mathematics disabled, and one of them have mathematics enabled, for example, this the disabled, I believe that this rule would still be returning false, as far as I understand. If QK wants to clear this up in the comments, that'd be great. I would definitely appreciate that. But since there's at least one profile that has mathematics enabled, it would be therefore not ultimately disabled because of the fact that it still can appear. So, now with my case, I only have one profile, and that's for myself. I really don't play with many other people, and if I do, I'm an expert usually. So, effectively what this means is that I have every single module enabled for just using the DMG line. So in this case, is mathematics ultimately disabled by profiles? No, nothing is disabled. Everything is automatically enabled. So we're going to hit no. And just like that, we're going to move on to our next question. Is sorting ultimately disabled by profiles? In this case, no, because it's a module. Both needies and normal modules are not disabled on my profiles, so I'm going to say no for this answer. And just like that, after our second question, the module has solved. And in this case, module solved, GG. So now, let's take a look at some of the other questions. What is the exif letter or digit of the module that is YF on the repo? Now, what these exif and YF means is that there's just two numbers that can be placed in there. So, for example, it could be what is the fifth letter of the 1927th module on the repo. Now, one important thing that should be noted down. For when it comes to sorting, we're going to be excluding vanilla modules except for the last question. And the last question is that is specifically referring to on the bomb. So the only case that you're never going to include vanilla modules is the only case that you're never going to the only case that you're going to include vanilla modules is when they're on the bomb. Otherwise, we're going to simply ignore them for the rest of our time. So what I'm going to do is when we're sorting on the repo here, I'm going to make sure that I have filters and I have regular and needy modules enabled, but I make sure that I have vanilla disabled. That's going to be what we're doing here. It's only going to be referring to regular vanilla, and needy modules. It is going to have needies, so be careful with that. But in this case, it is just not going to have vanillas when we're actually sorting on the repo here. So, let's take a look. So, what is the exif letter or digit of the module that is YF on the repo sorted by whatever sorting method? And the sorting methods can include some of these. Sort keys A through Z, Sort keys Z through A. Diffuser difficulty, very easy, very hard. Very hard, very easy. Expert difficulty, very easy, very hard. Expert difficulty, very hard, very easy. Published date, newest to oldest, and published date, oldest to newest. Now, these actually are pretty easy to get around if we know how to use the repo. So if we go to options, as you can see here, first off, when using the find bar, we can show the limit of the amount of options. So basically, what we can do here is we can go to the 1927th module, and then we can see what is there. So one of the questions that I previously had was, what was the fifth letter of the 1927th module? So in this case, we'll put in 1927. And then what we can do is, there was another filter that I had to do. It was sort by diffuser difficulty, and it was very hard. It was the very hard, very easy. And effectively, all we have to do here is this is very simple. So first things first, if we take a look here, the diffuser difficulty is always going to be in the very easy, very hard range at default. So it's always going to have everything that possibly can happen. If you move the slider here, it will get rid of options, medium, very hard. So in this case, let's keep this option all the way to the left and all the way to the right. So when we look down here, we can do a sort order. We can sort by diffuser difficulty. And since we're sorting by diffuser difficulty, it's going to start with the very easy stuff. So as you can see, diffuser is very easy. This represents the D right here. Very easy, very easy. If it doesn't have a D or an E next to it, that means that they're both the exact same. So just keep that in mind. So now, all we simply need to do now is we look at the sort order and we simply reverse it. Because what that will do is that will now give us the very hard diffuser difficulties first. And then we'll go back down alphabetically. So if we were to scroll down all the way to the bottom, in this case, we'd end up with ... question mark, which actually we don't even have 1927. I believe I switched up my numbers. It was 1297, because we don't have that many yet. So if we do where is it? Options, 297. Let's see how that looks. This should be more right. Yeah, it ends up on gray arrows. In this case, our fifth character, not including spaces, of course, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'd end up on alpha here. That's kind of just to give you a perspective of what we're going to do if that question pops up. Next up, is module a module type? Now, what this refers to is if we look at the right side here, or if we look at, in this case, it'll be on the right. If we look at the right side, we have the regular, and we've got regular, but sometimes we have, if I can find one, needy, for example. In this case, gray arrows is a needy. These will be the ones that you'll see. It's between regular and needy, 9 times out of 10. I don't know if there's any other exceptions, but for the most part, it's just asking whether it is a regular module or a needy module. Fairly straightforward. Now, next one, and my personal favorite, how many tutorial videos does this module have assigned to it? Now, the way that you can do this is if we look at the left here, each of them has a tutorial icon, if they happen to have a tutorial made for them. Now, there are some cases where, as you can see here for mathematics, there are translated versions. In this case, we've got the Czech language, I believe, the Czech Republic language, as far as I'm aware, and the English language. So in this case, this one would have 2 tutorials associated with it. So that's going to be what you're looking for there, and that's going to be how you're going to have multiple tutorials in that case. Next up, how many people have worked on the module? Now, it's very important that you do this one in a very particular way. So in this case, it may say by vFlyer, but there may be other people who have worked on this module, so make sure that you click on the name and check if there was anyone else who worked on this module. In this case, for Moss, Nimsay Ramsey worked on this, and JG developed the manual graphics, so therefore, 2 people have worked on this. Now, of course, you got to make sure, because Exdish might appear and be a random maintainer at some point. For example, with DVD modules, he is a maintainer of, I believe, all of those. But in this case, for another example would be Mahjong Quiz Hard. Lone did the modeling, Sebi did the developing of it, therefore that would be 2 people, and so on and so forth. There can be people who are just 1, there can be people who are 3, there can be people who are 4, for example. In this case, Mafia was 3. So that's going to be what you're looking for there. Just make sure that you click on the names to make sure that no one else contributed to it, because eggs just might be there, of course, contributing to Twitch plays. So next up, what was the last digit of the date info module of a specific module was released on? So what this is going to ask you for is this is going to ask you for a last digit of a year, a month, or a date or a day for when this module was released on. And in this case, you can find the release dates over here. It is important that you do have these options displayed. Date published, module ID, souvenir support, Twitch play support, and difficulties. What I have, I'm not sure you really need any more from that, but for the most part, I would advise having date published up, because that's going to be very important for you to see what you're looking for in this case. So it will say down here, yes, possible date information, year, month, day. Fairly straightforward. If it was asking for what was Lucky Dice's last day, in this case, we would say 5, because it's sorted by year, month, and then day, if that wasn't clear. So next up, what is the exit digit of the Steam ID of this module? So if we look at the Steam ID, so we can go into this Team Workshop, let's go to Mad Memory, for example. It might ask for what's the 7th digit of the Steam ID. The ID will be up here. For those of you who do not know flavor text, flavor text EX rather. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th position would be a 4 in this case, and that would be our answer. Fairly straightforward. Does module have its source code available? Now this one's an interesting one, and this one's only going to be a yes or no question. Now once the repo loads again, this little Unity icon refers to its source code. If you can hover over it and you can see that source code option, therefore it is going to be available. Most of them will have their source code available, but there are a few exceptions where they actually don't have the source code available. So that's going to be important to know. And what is the souvenir status of this module? Now, this one is a bit interesting. So, if we take a look at options, I believe souvenir support. Now, there is icons that there is these little letters that will give you what the souvenir support is in this case. S means supported. This module is included in souvenir support. C is for consider. It's a candidate rather. This module may be considered a candidate for inclusion in souvenir. And if we take a look here, possible souvenir support statuses used as answers is unexamined. So in this case, it hasn't really been looked at, or someone hasn't added it to the repo yet. Not a candidate, which means it's not possible to ask for questions in this case. Long beans is an example of we have not decided whether to include this module for an example. So U would be our answer for that. Some of these are never going to have souvenir support just because of the fact that they're either needies or like they're bosses, for example. And then N being not a candidate for souvenir is N. So it's just basically the first letter of each of these guys. Very straightforward to see that. I would advise that you have the souvenir support up. And then finally we get to this question of what is the exit letter of the digit of the module that is Wyeth on the bomb, sorted either A through Z or Z through A. So this one is probably the longest one, and it's probably the rarest one to actually pop up. I have had that pop up maybe once or twice. But just keep in mind that it can happen, and keep in mind that especially on bigger bombs, it will be a little bit trickier. That means you might have some work to do. So, otherwise, that is all the questions that can potentially appear on here. It's all fairly straightforward, and that's going to be what we're taking a look at. So when you get the exif letters, when you get the exif letter or digit of a module, use the module's name. However, if there are no such characters in the module's name, use its ID. So in this case, if we happen to land on something like ... and there happens to be all of these special characters in the name, you're simply going to go into its mod ID. That's going to be the case where you happen to get something with the special characters, where it doesn't work. So now let's start answering some more questions, and let's see what we can do here. So, what is the 6th letter or digit of the module that is 60th on the repo, sorted by diffuser difficulty? Very easy, very hard. Now this one should be very straightforward. So, sort by diffuser difficulty. We're not going to reverse it because we need to do very easy, very hard. So, let's take a look at the 60th one. This should be pretty straightforward. And then we'll go to first matches of 60. Okay? And then let's go to the bottom here. See what the bottommost one is. It's Chaotic Countdown. So Chaotic Countdown, the 6th letter of that one is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It should be in India. And just like that, India is good. Now let's move on to our next question. What have you got? What is the last digit of the day the generator was released on? Okay. Ooh, that's not what I meant to do. The generator. The generator, the last digit of the day, it was released on the 23rd, so therefore we're going to be submitting the 3 here. Just like that is a module solved. What was the last digit of the month prime encryption was released on? Last digit of the month was 12, so it's going to be a 2. Now, I should note that there may be an increase in questions later on because 2 questions is kind of fairly simple, but it's not necessarily, it's really easy, I'll be honest with you. So, with this one now, we're going to ask how many people have worked on not emoji math. So now, we've got Speaking Evil, and it's just him. So, we're going to do 1. He is the developer of that module, and he does a great job with that one, although not my favorite. Just going to say that out loud. Is Forget Me Later a regular module? So Forget Me Later, for those of you who do not know what that module is, it is a regular module, as you can see right there. So that is going to be a yes. What is the second letter digit of the module that is 1370th on the repo sorted by the sort keys Zulu through alpha? Okay, so we're going to take a look at the, now we're going to sort by name in this case. So we're going to sort by name, and we're going to reverse it because it's now going to be Zulu through alpha. And now we're going to go to the 1370th. Give it a second to load because it chugs my browser, I swear. So now what is the second letter? In this case, encryption bingo is our answer. So we're going to go to November. Just like that, that's good to go. Now, what is the fourth letter / digit of the module that is first on the bomb sorted A through Z? Now, looking at the stuff that we have here, we've got 5 Repo selectors. We have an anagrams, we have a word scramble, we have a hitman, we have a set, and we've got a minesweeper. It's asking for the first module on the bomb that's sorted A through Z. In this case, that will be anagrams, because it's definitely got that A, and it's the only one that has an A. And now it's asking for the fourth letter of this, which is a golf. Okay. Let's see what our next question is. What is the souvenir status of Monsflode Fight? This I know for a fact is indeed going to be supported. Is it a supported? It is a supported module. I know this because I've done one souvenir army before. It is going to be supported. Just like that is a solved module. And now I'm going to load up a couple other souvenir, just repo selectors on their own, but that just gives you an idea of how the sorting on the bomb works. Let's bring this back up. Let's bring this back up, and let's make our options a little bit less than 1,370. Let's go with 100. That's actually what I end up going at. Yeah, make sure you have needies enabled. Needies are very important in this case, but make sure you have vanillas disabled when sorting on the repo, because those questions tend to get people a lot. But yeah, overall, I'm very pleased with the significant improvement that Repo Selector has made. This is definitely a big step. I think that people can learn to enjoy this module a little bit more now, and I'm just going to do 3 for the second example. Let's have a look at this next one. I think we've gotten all the questions. I haven't seen tutorial videos pop up yet. It is a bit of a rare one, and most of the time it's going to end up being 1, to be honest with you. Okay. Does KMazy Talk have its source code available? It does indeed. It has that Unity icon, so therefore that is a yes. What is the souvenir status of WhoOF? Okay. WhoOF. It is indeed supported, so it is a supported module. That's good. How many tutorial videos does the rule have assigned to it? That's perfect. The rule has just the one. So just 1. That's good to go. How many people have worked on the Dealmaker? Let's take a look. GHXX is the only one, so therefore that is a 1. What is the souvenir status of the block? This should be not a candidate. Yes, not a candidate for souvenir. Okay. What is the last digit of the day Nya was released on? Nya was released on the 23rd, so therefore it is a 3 for the day. and just like that is a salt module. So yeah, overall, fairly simple module. I just wanted to go over how you can find the answers for each of these questions, and I'm sorry it took so long to do that. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.